Hey guys, welcome back to Hope with Jonathan. I'm your host, Jonathan Trailer. And tonight we have a very special guest with us tonight, all the way from the state of Indiana near Chicago. I believe he's in Hammond, Indiana. We're going to feature tonight Uncle Jim Myers. So if you don't know who Uncle Jim Myers is, Jim is a extraordinary advocate for kidney disease. He's an awesome storyteller. He's awesome at sharing his story, and also he's incredible at sharing other people's stories. And when he's not advocating for kidney disease and bills and things like that, speaking with members of his Congress, House and Senate regarding the betterment of the kidney disease community. Jim also hosts his own podcast, Kidney Stories Too. And Jim is a great friend, a mentor, and a great overall kidney advocate. And you're in for a real treat tonight. I hope you guys will get involved with this podcast and share this with all your friends and anybody that you think would enjoy this broadcast. But listen, guys, I can't wait to bring Jim on. I'm really happy that you guys are in support of Hope with Jonathan. We're really excited at what we're doing here at Hope with Jonathan and our podcast. Also, I want to reference really quickly Kidney Solutions. If you're currently battling kidney disease, maybe you're on dialysis, maybe you're in need of a living kidney donor, maybe you just had a recent kidney transplant. We have support groups. We offer free services. Again, I'm going to mention that again. It's completely free to the patient. And you guys need to go check it out at kidneysolutions.org. And Kent Bressler is an incredible advocate as well, who is a vice president of that program, nonprofit for kidney patients. So go check out kidneysolutions.org again. But we want to get back to our broadcast. We're going to have Jim Myers on. So we're going to go ahead and welcome Jim to the show. And let me hit the button right here. Hey, Uncle Jim, welcome to Hope with Jonathan.
Hey, John.
How you doing, Jim?
Doing all right, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I wanted to have you on the show tonight, and I wanted to feature you. I really feel like you are a huge influence in the kidney community, and I wanted to have you on. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and where you're from.
Sure. I'm Jim Myers. I'm from Hammond, Indiana. I'm a polycystic kidney disease patient over 42 years now. I've lost 5 members of my family to PKD, including my dad. I was diagnosed when I was 25. I ended up on dialysis at the age of 58. I had a kidney transplant at the age of 62. I'm 68 years old now, and I'm a pretty active kidney advocate. In particular, my specialty is kidney advocacy on social media.
That's right, and that's where I believe I actually got connected with you was through the power of social media and networking, and being able to find other people in the kidney community. And once you kind of put yourself out there that you're a kidney patient, I believe people just start kind of flocking to you. It's a large family, so we kind of connected that way. I think over Facebook or one of the apps anyway.
Yeah, I know you're out there. Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm like you. I think we should take advantage of as many apps and opportunities as we can to kind of talk about kidney disease and talk about different aspects of it. And a great way to do it is social media.
Absolutely.
Yep.
My favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and another thing, I want to thank you again for this opportunity to have you on my show. But some years back, whenever I crashed into dialysis and had one of the most unreal traumatic events of my life, being wheeled into a ER by way of helicopter and crashing into kidney failure and waking up on a dialysis machine without any prior education of kidney disease or dialysis or anything prior. It was quite a traumatic event, and guys like Kent Bressler, who I mentioned before, and Uncle Jim Myers, were introduced to me early on. And Kent had me on his podcast, which is an audio podcast. If you haven't checked that out, I'll give a shameless plug for Kent's Kidney Stories podcast. It's a great podcast. But anyway, Ken had me on that advocating for me a kidney donor. And then not too long after, I was on Kidney Stories 2 with Uncle Jim Myers. And I really appreciate that opportunity, Uncle Jim.
Oh, no worries. Very happy to have you on. Need to have you back.
Yeah, it's always fun to do these podcasts and get on live and talk and share amongst ourselves. And it's a great way to get caught up with each other and see what everybody, where everybody's at and what's going on currently. But uh, one of the questions that I have for you, I think, was if you wanted to share, maybe we're not going to take too much time tonight, of course, and in no way am I rushing you to not share your complete story, but if you wanted to maybe share, some parts of your story and about PKD, and how it affected you.
When I was 25, it runs in my family. I've lost five
Mhm.
members of my family to polycystic kidney disease, including my dad. It came to a blow to me initially when I was diagnosed. I was working as a trial attorney at that time in Chicago for a big shot lawyer. His name was Leonard Ring. And I knew that the effect this was going to have on my life because of seeing it up close and personal with my father. So I was very concerned about that. The way things have worked out, Jonathan, I think that that was a break for me long term in a lot of ways
Mhm.
because I was able to apply my talents and my abilities and my interests to raising awareness for kidney disease and to educating my fellow kidney patients. And that's in all aspects of things. As you mentioned, I frequently advocate to my members of Congress, both locally and nationally. When I was on dialysis, they were trying to pass legislation to limit funding for dialysis units. That would have taken away support people, that would have taken away technicians, that would have taken away our social worker. We would have lost some of our nurses. When I looked around the room, I thought to myself, who's going to fight this? And the people that I was taking dialysis with, they were bringing them to the center in an ambulance. They were wheeling them in on gurneys. They were in wheelchairs. They were in canes. They were using walkers. And, I was like the youngest guy there, okay? And the more I looked around, I thought, these guys are taking advantage of people that can't fight back. This has got to be like shooting fish in a barrel to them. And it just made me angry. And John, I got to be honest with you. I do some of my best work when I'm a little angry. Okay. So I joined a bunch of advocacy groups like the NKF, the AAKP, the American Kidney Fund. I put together a petition on change.org arguing against the law. I talked to anybody. I wrote 100 newspapers. I did countless interviews, and we managed to slow them down a bit. And eventually, they gave up because it was such an unpopular thing. So having a little success in my advocacy, I thought this is what I'm meant to do. This is all those years I went through with my education, all those years of practicing law and doing trial work, all of those years of arguing and representing and taking up the sword for other people who maybe didn't speak so well for themselves and were just being taken advantage of. Uh, that's all been a benefit to me. And that is the thing that motivates my advocacy. What I don't want is I don't want people to go through the same things that I've gone through, that my family members have gone through, in particular, what my dad went through. If I can do something that raises awareness, that educates people, that gives them a little bit of a heads up, that's what I'm all about. That's
Yeah.
what I try to
Yeah.
accomplish with my kidney advocacy.
Yeah, and that's huge, in guys like my case where I crashed into dialysis and didn't have any education on that. And we hear this quite a bit from people that say, "Hey, I didn't know anything about kidney disease, or I didn't see anything. We don't see commercials, we don't see much on TV or media, not much press coverage on the importance of knowing about kidney disease." So um, we got to keep talking about it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I can remember I was just like you. I mean, even though shortly after I was diagnosed by my family doctor, Dr. Black, he referred me to IU Health down in Indianapolis, and those doctors down there were looking after me. Eventually, my kidney function got down to the point where it was like 6%, 9%. And, I had to call an ambulance to come get me. And I had trouble reaching my phone. I was laying on my bed. My phone was maybe 6 foot away from me, and I had difficulty getting it. And the ambulance drivers have been at my house so many times by that time that, they were calling me by my first name when they were asking me questions.
sure.
And went to the hospital, got transferred down to IU Health. They put me on a strict kidney diet. They gave me high blood pressure medication for the PKD, and Dr. Hellman was looking after me down there. And again, at the time, I kind of fell into it like you did. It was a blow to me because I realized I would not be able to do all the things that I have been doing. But the way it worked out is, I'm an extrovert. I took my talents and my ability to speak out for other people in a loud voice, and it's made me a much better kidney advocate. And I've really found my purpose in life, what I'm supposed to do, what
Yeah,
I was brought here on earth to do, and that's to
yeah,
advocate for my fellow kidney patients.
absolutely. And in a way, that's kind of how I felt, you know, after I survived this near death experience. It was like I asked questions like, why did this happen to me? And I kind of had my pity party moment, you know. Excuse me. So I basically was asking, why did this happen? And then I realized, this happened to me for a reason. I needed to utilize this for the greater good and try to help other people. And I needed to share my story and talk about what happened because somebody down the line has experienced either the same thing or somebody's going to experience it, unfortunately. And same with you. I mean, there's lots of PKD patients out there that have, experienced kidney failure. So it was a good thing for me to, get involved, I think, with not only advocacy, and but doing these podcasts and being involved with different organizations. You already mentioned, NKF, AKF, AAKP, and I think that's huge. And that was going to be one of my questions was how can people maybe if they don't want to get involved on a level like me and you are, where we're doing podcasts and we're sharing posters and pictures and flyers online. How can people get involved with kidney advocacy? What ways would you suggest if you wanted to get started?
Well, the first thing I would suggest is to try and find a local kidney advocacy group. For example, when I joined the National Kidney Foundation, I also joined the National Kidney Foundation of Indianapolis out of a desire to try and learn. And I would subscribe to Google Alerts. For example, I'd ask them to send me kidney related topics that interest me, and I would look for people that are more experienced, that have been down the road a little further than I have been. As you mentioned, people like Kent Bressler or Armand Halter, people like that have been around for a while. And really, so folks know, guys like me and John, we hope you ask questions.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
welcome your questions. Drop us a line. Find us on Facebook, find us on social media, send us an email. It's not like it's a big mystery where we're at. We have footprints on social media that are big as the bears, man. So
Yeah.
and if you have questions, ask. I mean, I run 100 groups on Facebook on different topics. I'm not hard to find. You can email me, kidneystories@hotmail.com. That's
Right.
kidneystories@hotmail.com. Or, if you're in one of my groups or you see me on Facebook, my handle on Facebook, Jim Myers. It's not that complicated, Myers. You have questions, reach out. And if I don't know the answer, I'll look it up.
Sure.
Okay. And we'll
Sure.
try to give you a good response. And we're always happy to give you, good resources and good people that you can associate with and you can learn something. Kidney Solutions is one of those type of groups that John mentioned. I mean, the people in that group that run the group have over 100 years worth of kidney experience,
Yeah.
and we want to help. And like
Absolutely.
John also said, it's free. We're
Yep.
not in this to make money off of our fellow kidney patients. We're in this to try and raise awareness and to educate.
Yep.
So, if you want to get involved, that's one of the best ways to do it. To join a couple of advocacy groups, particularly if you can find one that's like local to you, and find guys that you can relate to that are a little bit further down the road than you are. Um, I would read everything I could get my hands on. If you
Yeah.
have questions, go to Google in your question, and when stuff comes up about the particular kidney problem that you're interested in, I would read as much of that stuff as I possibly could. Uh,
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
those things can only help you; they can't hurt you.
Absolutely. And you mentioned kidney solutions, and that was going to be one of my next questions. Was you know, let's talk a little bit about kidney solutions and what they provide and the support groups. Because for me, early on when I met Kent, which true story, Kent, I met him at a local Denny's, and I didn't know Kent from Adam. I mean, I didn't know who he was. And in fact, I told my wife when I left out, I said, if this guy's weird or something, I'm going to let you know, and you're free to call 911 if needed. And when little did I know, Kent was like he was an angel. He was a godsend to me, literally. And when I met Kent within the like first 30 seconds, I said, no, this guy is like amazing, incredible. And I knew I was in good hands. And when he kept mentioning that everything's free and I'm going to help you, and I'm like, okay, but literally here it is almost 3 years later that I've met Ken. I've never been billed for anything. Ken's never asked me for a dime. He never will. And so, and when I got involved with the support group, which by the way, the support groups meet on Monday night, 6 p.m. Central, and it's
Monday,
free.
Tuesday, and Thursdays.
Yeah. And it's free to all patients, patient family, if they want to come in, ask questions. If you're interested at all about learning about being a living kidney donor, we have resources for that as well. We have a living kidney donor advocate, and she'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have. So we
Shannon
have the
Mulroy.
yeah Shannon Mulroy, and so we have things like that, but the support group, going back to that, it was huge for me in a time that I was completely in the dark. I mean, my eyes were as wide as as saucers, and I was like deer in headlights with kidney failure. And so when Ken offered me to come into the support group, and I met other patients that were, but had either experienced kidney failure or currently on the list for a transplant or doing dialysis, I began to realize that I wasn't alone in this, and I had friends, and I began to build a relationship with, and Jim's one of them. And it was huge for me, man. That support and that sense of community in a support group. And the great thing, like I said, it didn't cost me anything. It was completely free. It was a no brainer, and it really was huge for me. So, talk a little bit about what the support group does for you as well.
Sure, sure. You mentioned it. You hit it right on the head. After you're diagnosed, after you speak to your doctor, after his nurse hands you a 3-page pamphlet about kidney disease and PKD and says to you, "This is all you need to know." I mean, you do have that feeling that you're kind of isolated and alone. The benefit is of a support group is that you find out exactly what you said, Jonathan. You're not alone. There are other people in your situation. There are other people that have been there. There are other people that have dealt with the things that are coming up on your horizon. And there are other people that have the same questions that you do or had the same experiences that you're about to have. And they can answer those questions. They can direct you. They can tell you, take a look at this, talk to this person, read this. I'll send you an article. Here's the link. All that type of thing. And it's just like you mentioned. You're no longer alone. You're among people that are like you. You're among people that have experienced things above and beyond your experience. And you're with people that want to help. They're not doing it for the money. They're not
Yeah,
trying to make money off of you.
exactly.
They're trying to help you. What really underlies the whole thing about a support group, John, is exactly what we talked about earlier. We want to make sure that you're aware. We want to make sure that you don't have some of the same "I fell out of bed and hit my head" type of experiences.
Exactly.
That you're in the know, you're educated, that you know what to ask. That frequently, we have people in our support group that if somebody's inexperienced goes to see their doctor, they take an experienced guy with them. So they've got another set of ears in the room. They have people that can ask intelligent questions. They can remind you about things that you wanted to ask. And, sometimes you get in front of the doc and you just freeze up. All your big plans and the things you needed to discuss. You might get derailed when the doctor says, "Well, you
Sure.
have polycystic kidney disease. There's no cure. Um, Eventually, you're probably going to die from it. In the meantime, you're going to have to go on dialysis, and all these sorts of
Hmm.
things are very upsetting.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
here's some
And
high blood pressure medication, and oh yeah, we're putting you on a kidney diet, which means no coffee, no caffeine, no red meat, low sugar, low protein. In other words, you're basically going to be eating salad for the next 4 or 5 years. Good luck and God bless. Here's a pamphlet. You
yeah.
know that it's no wonder people seek support from people like us.
Absolutely. And then just the other night, we had a renal dietitian on, and she was incredible, and she answered a lot of questions. It was a great meeting,
Oh yeah, right. On the
yeah,
balls of her feet
yeah, and it was
without
completely
any
completely
preparation.
free.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it was free information. It was free to you. All you had to do is have the link, and you could have came in and listened. And she was incredible, and she answered everybody's questions. She was not in a rush. She it was very explanatory, talking about real questions that patients have. It wasn't like something that she was reading out of a book or a pamphlet. She was, taking questions. She was talking, and a lot of things have changed. A lot of things, that's why you got to be really careful about what you read on Google and old literature, because a lot of things have kind of changed over the years about renal diets and things like that. So it's good to
You have
go
to
to
be a little
these.
discerning. That's right.
Yeah, and you have to go to these meetings to find out, what is new and what is, happening on the horizon of kidney disease, and how to treat it, and how you're supposed to. And like you said, it's not a death sentence completely. It's and it doesn't mean that you're going to be eating salad and like a rabbit the rest of your life. It just means that you're going to have to be a little more mindful about consumption, and like Kent says, everything in moderation. And
Yeah.
so, and you get some gray sound advice. We don't give people medical advice or anything like that, because that's up to your medical team, and we ask for people to go talk to their and refer to their medical team. But it's a great place for people to find that sense of community, and it's awesome. Jim,
Talk
Jim, you're
talk to your nephrologist. Write
oh,
down your
always,
questions before you go in.
yeah,
Take them with you. Take somebody as an extra pair of ears. Make
oh,
sure you ask all your questions. Make
absolutely,
sure you get an answer to all of your questions. If you
yeah,
don't get an answer, ask somebody who's a little more experienced, and guys like us will look it up for you. We'll make sure
yeah,
that we give you the right answer.
yeah. And it's good Jim mentions to take someone with you, because let me tell you, when you're facing kidney failure, especially when you get further into stage 5, your mind is not working as great as what you think that it is. At least in my case, and then you're not remembering stuff. You got the brain fog and all that going on. So if a doctor tells you were supposed to do this, this, and this, by the time you get home, you may have that twisted into something completely different. And so that's why it's great to take someone else with you. They can take notes, i.e., a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse. And if you don't have that, then take your best friend, or take someone from your community. Whoever you can get that you
Your
trust,
church,
and
one of your
your church.
clubs.
Sure, absolutely, great advice. Great advice, Jim. I'm going to ask you, where does your passion come from? Where, because you are highly passionate.
There are a couple things that influenced me that I think we need to talk about here. First of all, being with my dad. Um, he was hospitalized at St. Margaret's Hospital here in Hammond, Indiana, for an entire month before he passed away. He never came home that month. He was one of the first people in the 1980s to be put on peritoneal dialysis in our area. And they used to ask him to go speak to other people about peritoneal dialysis, its advantages, its disadvantages, particularly people that were active and wanted to keep working, that type of thing.
Sure.
Well, here's my dad in the hospital And one of the nurses comes in and says to him, there's a guy down the hall. He wants to ask some questions about PD. Would you please go down the hall and speak to him? So, they see me there all the time. Like at that point in time, I was there 10, 12 hours a day. I mean, when he woke up, I was there. So we put him in one of those old rickety wood wheelchairs, right? And I got my arm wrapped around him, and I take him down the hall to meet this guy. Now, my dad was not like me. He was not like my mother, where I get it from. He's not an extrovert. He was an introvert. And he talked to the man, and he stuttered, and he stammered, and he struggled. And that whole time was difficult for him. And I know it wore him out, because on the way back, I had to use both arms to hold him in the wheelchair, and I had to kind of push him along with my legs, and we zigzagged our way back to his room. And they actually had to put him in a lift, in a Hoyer device, to lift him out of the wheelchair and put him back into his bed. That's how tired he really was. But he did it. Jonathan, he did it. And he passed away maybe a week later, no longer than a week later.
Wow.
So my thought has always been, if your dad could do that, knowing he was sick, knowing he was never going to go home, knowing he was going to die, what people ask of you is minor, and that's part of my passion. The other thing was, when I first went on dialysis, I was angry, because I knew where this led. My dad had 5 years on dialysis and he was gone. So I thought, well, this is the beginning of the death march. So I wasn't real happy about that. Mm-hmm. And when I got to the dialysis lab, there was this woman, Maureen O'Brien. Maureen had been a pediatric kidney patient, which I didn't even know existed. John, I didn't realize children could have this disease. And she had had 3 or 4 kidney transplants already, and was getting ready to have another one. And she kind of took me under her wing. She sort of looked after me. And she was always very encouraging and upbeat, and always seemed to say the right thing. Well, I lost her a few years back, but I got to know her real well as a friend. I wrote blogs about her. I did interviews with her. She invited me into her home. She showed me pictures of when she was a little Catholic school girl in her little plaid skirt and her white blouse, and they were trying to raise money at that time so she could get the help that she needed, because back in those days, you couldn't get listed unless you came up with like $50,000 first from the hospital. Okay. Wow. Can you imagine being 6, 7 years old having to deal with this? And she dealt with it like it was nothing. So when I think back on it, and it makes me emotional sometimes, I think to myself, you owe these people. You owe it to these people. You owe it to the people that believe in you, have put their trust in you, that contact you, that ask you for information, that look up to you. You owe all these people 100% of your best effort. So the reason that I do it, the reason I'm so dedicated to it, the reason that I'm passionate about it, is because when I needed help, when I needed an example, when I needed advice, when I just needed a friend to say, it's going to be all right, people reached out to me. And that's why I use social media, John, because as you know from your own experience, you can reach a whole lot of folks that way.
Sure.
And that is what motivates me to do the things that I do. And that's why I do them, because somebody out there helped me when I needed it.
Wow, that's incredible. I am just motivated by listening, and I mean that's both of those were beautiful reasons. And so I can see why you're emotional because it's hitting me as well. It's hitting the old emotional chords inside of me, and so I can feel why you're so passionate. And I'm sure your father, if he's
And you
looking
see how
down,
that
he's
worked out, John. Then
yeah.
when Jonathan Traylor is new to the kidney community
Mhm.
and he reaches out to us, when someone is new to the kidney community and they reach out to us, we've been there. We're a little further down the road.
Yeah.
We have had other people that helped us set a good example. That's why we do it. I don't want my kidney friends to go through the same nonsense. And I'm cleaning that up a little bit, John, because I know you have nice people on your broadcast. The same nonsense as I did.
Yeah.
I want them to have a better experience. And when it comes to younger advocates, there's nothing that makes me happier when a young man, a young woman reaches out to me and says, I want to advocate. Can you help me? Oh, hell yes. You're right. I'm
Sure.
happy to help.
Sure.
Happy to help. I
Absolutely.
want to give a shout out to my friend Cecilia. I see she's talking on the screen. So, hi,
Yes.
Cecilia.
Cecilia Santana. Hey, I appreciate you tuning in tonight. And she was saying hello. And so it's always nice when people from the kidney community
Our good friend
support,
from New York.
yeah, support
See, and
us.
that's the other thing,
It's huge.
Jonathan. As you know, I know people all over the world now.
Mm-hmm.
I know people in Italy and France and
Mm-hmm.
Germany. I've interviewed some of those people on my broadcast. You remember that story about the one guy that lived in London and the other guy lived in Belgium, and
Okay.
they're
Yeah.
both artists.
Yeah.
And the one guy wanted to donate to the other guy, and all the nonsense that they went.
Yeah.
Just so you know, folks, they were actually in the hospital to do the kidney transplant, and they wheeled the guy down that was the donor to donate to the other guy.
Yeah.
And the orderly got like a phone call, and there was an argument. And then they wheeled him back up to the room that he was sharing with the guy that was supposed to receive his kidney. And they're both looking at each other like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then some doctor comes in and explains to them, oh, well, your surgeon had a couple of emergency surgeries last night and she's had it. So you guys are going to have to come back and try to do this again another time,
Yep.
right? And I mean, does the
I believe
donor
there was
guy
a
give up? Does he say, well, this is a bit much, this is a lot to expect? No, no. They go back, they get the mission accomplished, everybody happy.
yep.
They're still great friends. That's one of the coolest kidney stories of all time. And
Yeah. I
that's
believe
the
there
kind
was
of
a
thing I'm
language.
talking about.
There
Made
was a
friends
language barrier
all
too,
over the
no?
world.
There was a bit of a language barrier or something. They had to interpret or something between
Right.
them.
The
So
one guy
yeah.
didn't speak any German.
Yeah.
And so he's in the hospital and they're making all these decisions about what they're going to do. And he doesn't understand anything they're saying.
Yeah. So imagine doing that, going in for a kidney transplant, and you can't understand anything they're saying to you. That's insane. So, but Jim, man, I appreciate you sharing your story with us tonight, and it's been incredible. and we've talked about a lot of stuff, and the most inspirational, talking about your father. I'm sure he's looking down and super proud of you and what you're doing, what you're accomplishing, in the kidney community. And I've got in the description, I've got the link to, I believe it's for the AAKP, and it kind of describes all the accolades and positions and things like that Uncle Jim Myers has held. He's got quite an extensive list, and not to toot his horn,
Check
but
out my bio, and if there's anything you want to know, I have a website on blogger.com, kidney
Mhm.
stories on blogger.com. Check me out.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'm happy to help.
And Uncle Jim also hosts a podcast that we talked about earlier, Kidney Stories 2. You want to talk a little bit about Kidney Stories 2 and
Yeah,
where people can
yeah.
find it
We
and all
do
that stuff?
live broadcasts on uh, kidney stories too. I have some interesting things coming up. I'm going to be talking to a woman tomorrow. We're going to be doing a recording that will play on the 30th of December. She has PKD. She had a double nephrectomy when she was quite young. That means they took both of her kidneys away. They put her on dialysis. Um, she and her husband were not a match. However, the husband donated to somebody else, an impaired donation that moved my friend, Wendy Crowder, up the list. Someone else donated to her. That kidney has lasted 19 years. It's currently failing. So she's looking for another donor. She's looking for a preemptive kidney transplant, a transplant that comes before dialysis. By the way, always ask that new nephrologist of yours if preemptive kidney transplants is an option, because sometimes these guys will tell you, well, you're sick. When it gets to the point you go on dialysis, you get your transplant after dialysis, and
Sure.
that's not completely true. I mean, you may have to find a live donor, but don't hesitate to ask them about preemptive transplant. Any rate, that lady's going to be going live on the 30th. This Friday, I'm talking to one of John's old interviewees, Sharon Simpson Rouse. We're going to be
Oh,
talking about Kindness for Kidneys, her international not-for-profit. She
great
has a
guess.
fascinating kidney stories. She is all over the place. You name a media platform, Sharon has been there. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit, and should be interesting stuff. So you want to know more about my broadcasts, or follow me, drop me a line, send me an IM on Facebook, look me up on Twitter. I'm happy to provide you with the information.
Absolutely. And then inside the description of this video on YouTube, you'll be able to go back and go in the description and find the link to Jim's YouTube channel. So we're going to ask for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe and click the bell, and you'll get notified of all of his brand new videos coming out and brand new podcasts. Anything that Jim's doing will be on there. So you'll be able to click that link easily in the description. Also, I've got the link to his bio from the AAKP, which, by the way, I'll put out a shameless plug. If you want to join the AAK, it's free. You just go to the aakp.org, and their website's pretty extensive. I don't know the exact where to what page to click on to join, but you can easily find it once you access the
Go to
aakp.
Google and type in "join the AAKP." You'll find
Sure.
it.
Sure. And they're actively always looking for ambassadors and people that want to be get involved, and it's a great organization to get involved with. So, Jim is you're a chairman or you're a board member. I know that.
Board director.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
it's the oldest and largest kidney organization in the United States. It's
Mhm.
strictly patient oriented. I'm very proud to be a member. You need help with that, drop me a line. I'm happy to help you.
Absolutely. When it's a great thing to get involved with. I mean, they have walks and they have national patient meetings and different educational videos and series and things like that. And once you get involved, they'll send emails to you and they'll invite you to all the new stuff. So it's just great to be involved. I'm involved with a couple of non-pro or organizations like that, as well as AAKP. I'm also involved with the NKF as well, National Kidney Foundation. You can join them as well. I'm also involved with the American Kidney Fund. One of the main reasons why that I'm involved with the American Kidney Fund like that I am is because when I needed financial help, AA or American Kidney Fund assisted me, and they helped me out for like a year, and gave me assistance, and because of that, I give back by doing and being involved with their walks. And over the years, the last couple of years, I've raised a few $1,000s, I think, that I've raised. Not bragging on myself or tooting my own horn or anything, but it's been a great way to give back and pay it forward for an organization that was really there for me when I needed them the most. And so I can't say enough about organizations like the AAKP, NKF, or AKF. So great organizations to get involved with.
All good outfits.
Yes, sir. Uncle Jim, any last words before we close out the show? Any words of hope or any shout outs that you want to give to people?
Yeah. In closing, what I'd like to say is that to me, it's very important to raise awareness and to educate people about kidney disease. And if you have kidney disease and you have issues and you have experiences, don't be afraid to speak out about your experiences. Don't be afraid to share with others. Speak out at meetings, speak out at schools, use social media, you know, spread the word, get affiliated with some larger kidney advocacy groups like the National Kidney Foundation, the American Association of Kidney Patients, the American Kidney Fund, another group I'm involved with, the Chronic Disease Coalition, and make a contribution. Help someone else. Um, and, you know, do something in that area that's meaningful to you. Like me, for example, I could talk about polycystic kidney disease until the cows come home, just because of my family's experience with it. So you do the same thing. You find something that's meaningful to you, and you let the world know your feelings about it, your experiences with it, and don't be afraid. Don't hold back. You know, tell them the truth, man. And anything you can do, because you know us old guys, we're not going to live forever. We need young guys like John, you know, to kind of pick up the baton. So this is your Uncle Jim trying to encourage all those young advocates out there to keep paddling your canoe and don't give up.
Absolutely, and we appreciate the older generation with Jim and Kent and Armand and so many others that are just a wealth of knowledge for us younger guys. I'm not a young spring chicken anymore, but I'm 45 now. But
I got
it'd be
shoes older than you.
but it would be great to see some guys that, and unfortunately, I hate to see cases of anyone experience kidney disease early in life, like in their teens or even younger or in their 20s. But it happens, and it'd be great for people to be involved that are that young and start realizing that this is part of their calling, that they need to share their story and try to help others along, just like me and you are doing, and
Absolutely.
lead a generation and make it not trendy, but make it cool, make it like it's a normal thing. Like, hey, I advocate for kidney disease. Do you should. you should be too, you know. And the same thing with organ donation. I mean, organ donation or being a donor should be just secondhand. I mean, everybody should be a donor, right? It should be the thing to do. But unfortunately, that's another show. You know, we could come back and do a whole nother show on that.
Oh yeah,
But
invite me back, baby. I would love to
yeah.
talk about that.
Another show that I'd love to do with you and Kent is talking about preemptive transplant. And
Oh yeah,
yeah, and
Mr. Kent, over 40 years with a preemptive transplant from his brother.
yeah, and not everybody's going to qualify for that, and not and everyone's story is a little bit different of how they're going to get the kidney transplant. But um, really, there's no reason to wait until you are facing, you know, stage 5 ESRD and going on dialysis.
At least have the choice.
Right.
At least
Yeah.
be told and be informed that you have the choice.
Well, you should actively be looking for a donor, you know, and your nephrologist should be helping you talk to you about that rather than pushing you toward dialysis. But like I said, that's a whole nother podcast that we could do, and I think it'd be a very impactful one.
Have me back. I'd be happy to talk about it. Let's bring Mr. Kent.
Absolutely. But listen, Jim, man, I really appreciate you in the kidney community. You are a strong advocate, mentor. I call you friend because we are
You're
friends.
my friend. Definitely.
and Jim's been a good guy to me, and I've actually had to call him on his personal phone and talk with him and regarding just different situations. Jim's been there for me and a good friend. And
Happy to talk anytime, Jonathan.
so listen, if you want to check out Uncle Jim's show, like I said in the description, the link is there. The information about Uncle Jim as well, about what he's doing in the kidney community is there also. And we'd love for you to support Uncle Jim and what he's doing with his podcasts and broadcasts. And also check out kidneysolutions.org. I don't have that in the description, but I'll add it. It's easy to do. We talked about kidney solutions in this podcast. Definitely want to send a shout out to Kent Bressler, who's a huge mentor and advocate friend as well, and he's been very impactful in both of our lives, and a
Yeah,
great person. So you guys go check out kidneysolutions.org. Also, send a quick shout out to Sharika Brookins. Thanks again for dropping by, Dr. Brookins. Just a really incredible person. She's been on my show before. You can go check that out if you'll scroll back. She does remote renal care for. She does the what do you call them, telehealth. She's doing telehealth. So she's a
oh,
nephrologist that utilizes telehealth, and she's an incredible interview. So Uncle Jim, feel free to reach out to her. She may be a person of
send me
interest.
her email. I'll contact her.
Yeah,
Sounds interesting.
she's very articulate, and she's an amazing guest. And really appreciate her for showing support. Everyone that showed love and support tonight. Cecilia, Emily was on here as well, and she's a really sweet lady that has showed me a lot. Elizabeth Oldham. I'm sorry, I
Elizabeth,
said
yeah,
wrong.
another friend
Yeah,
of ours.
another friend of ours, and she's a great person. Also, my friend Kyle from Toronto with Kidney Conversations. Kyle is a great friend of mine up in the Toronto, Canada area. So he's a really good guy. He's also he helps care with his wife who does peritoneal dialysis. She also suffers with polycystic kidney disease as well. So she great
Wow,
great
a whole
show.
bunch of cool broadcasts.
So she's yeah, just reach out to them, and any of those you can go back and refer to this podcast and get the information, or I'd be happy to share it with you. But
Please.
again, guys, really appreciate your support for Hope with Jonathan. Glad that you guys could join us tonight. We're going to go ahead and end this show. You guys take care. God bless. Take care of your kidneys. We'll see you guys
Watch
next
your
time.
space, folks.